G'day and welcome back to part 2 of my HMV 888 radio repair. In part 1 I thought I could do an easy repair to this radio, but I quickly found out the power transformer had had a spectacular fail. I decided to wind a new one, but first I wanted to add some features to my winding machine. After a fair bit of experimenting I got it to work pretty well and ended up with a serviceable transformer. This week I'm going to power up the transformer and see if there's anything in the radio that may have destroyed it. I hope you enjoy part 2. Here's the transformer. It's looking pretty good. I've painted it black around the laminations there, put it all together with the bolts. It has to have little brackets on the bottom there, but I've put it all together so I could paint it. Here's where the transformer is melted. Here's one of the brackets I took off with it, and the other one's still attached to the chassis here. Now I've got to try and get all this black burnt mess off here. I'm not sure if that's going to clean up or not. Things like this capacitor, they need to be cleaned up as well. That's covered with the flash from the transformer. This looks pretty ordinary, and underneath it's all black here as well, so I need to get all that out. These capacitors had just been mounted floating in midair. I'll mount them properly, and all that's got to be cleaned up as well, so I've got a little bit of work to do here. The chassis is not too bad. I think it'll sort of clean up. I think it's got a bit of corrosion on it. Look, I'm just going to clean this up. I'm not too worried about it. But this should clean up with a bit of alcohol and a good scrubbing. That's kind of interesting. The mixer converter valve is mounted on little rubber mounts. I haven't seen that before. As we saw in part 1, most of the capacitors have been replaced. There's still old ones here. That's probably not too big a deal. This one's in the amps stage, I guess. I'm not sure what it is. Maybe tone or something perhaps. But you know, I'll change those out anyway. So apart from that, it's going to be replacing these burnt components here and cleaning up all the soot that's in there. I'll just see how easy this is to clean off, get rid of that grommet. Alright, got a bit of methylated spirits here. That is not coming off. I'll try a brass brush on it. Is coming off, but of course it's taking the coating off as well, which I didn't want to do. Alright, I'll get this bracket out of the way. It'd be good to get something that melted that off without scrubbing it. I'll try a bit of acetone. Oh, that's doing it. That's taking it off. Okay. Alright, I'll clean all this up. I'll have to do underneath as well. Oh, yikes, look at that. If that'll... Yes, he's coming off with the acetone. That's not too bad, look. Yeah. Good. Alright. I'm going to take all these off, lift them away a bit, then I'll try and clean it up properly. So I'll do that. I'll come back and we'll have a look and see how it went. I've finished cleaning it and it's as clean as I can get it. It's not fantastic, but it's not too bad. This cleaned up all right. The underside cleaned up pretty well. I let go all the tabs and things like that so I could get better access. The same underneath. I cleaned up fairly well. So it's not fantastic, but it's good enough. I got most of the black off. So what I want to do now is take this inside and I'm going to try and rebuild this section. Now once that's finished, I will turn this over and replace all the components that need doing. There's some rubber wire in there. I'll see if that needs to be replaced. And hopefully we can turn it on and it won't blow up. I've mounted the transformer on the bottom and I've just got it in this box here to keep it a bit stable. These are the 5 and the 6.3 volt windings coming through that side. And over here I've got the other windings, the secondaries and the primary. I have the service manual and the wiring diagram I use for the transformer. According to my wiring diagram, these are the 6.3s, these are the 5 volts. So I'll connect them up first. Now of course the 5 volts will go across to the rectifier here. I'll try and lay these where they need to go. These 6.3 should go to the filaments on the radio. So one will go to ground and the other goes to the filaments. So there they are there. They're going over here. Well, that one's ground. So one's going to ground, that's okay. The other one's going to this resistor and then out. Why would you run it through a resistor for the filament? Hang on. It's lighting a light bulb. So for the light they must drop the voltage a bit. I think what I'll do is I'll just solder these onto the rectifier here. I'll connect these onto where the old ones went. I'll work out how it gets out into the rest of the filaments a bit later on when I put the rest of it back together probably. And that way I can get rid of these old wires here. Then I'll come back. Alright, I've soldered those two on. I've soldered these two guys on here. That's the 6.3 volts. I replaced the wire for the light there. And this is the power takeoff. So this is going off to the audio transformer. And that goes here. But I'll just leave it off for a minute because I can move all this away. It can give me a clear field inside here. Now these two are the secondary. That orange one is the center tap. So the two secondaries go down to here, which is the plates on the rectifier. The center tap either goes to ground or goes through a resistor. Let's have a look here. The choke is there, and there's the other one. So that's going to ground, that side of the choke. So the center tap must go to here. These black ones here simply go over to this strip here with the different voltages on it. So once again, I won't bore you with me soldering on wires, but that's what I'm going to do when I come back. These should be all connected. I've wired the secondary and all the power wires in here now. There's a wire here, I have no idea where that's going to go. So I think I'll mount the capacitors. I won't use these again. I might pick up that screw there. See if that's going to work. It's going up tight, good, that's good. These wires here, the rubber insulation's falling apart. So I will unsolder those, replace those, and I need to run a bit of wire over to the new tab here. That wire's done and I've put a wire on to go over to these capacitors here. I'll replace this one, I'll come back and have a look. Now these wires are all fitted, so I can put this tag strip or tab strip back on. This wire here needs to go into that and then go over to one of these. I have two 16 microfarad capacitors. This red wire here is this one here coming off the rectifier, so that's got to go on the positive side of the one of the capacitors. But I'm going to put that aside for a minute. The other side goes to the choke. Now the choke is this one here. So I'll put that in here. I'll put that capacitor across there. Then this one has to go the other way. The two positives join, so I can probably put it in here or something. And I think the other end goes to ground. Yeah, it goes straight to ground. So give me a minute to nut this out and I'll mount these and I'll come back when we're done. I've mounted the two capacitors. They're pretty neat. I don't think they'll hit anything when they go inside the chassis. I was congratulating myself on a job well done and realised I haven't connected the centre tap, which was the whole purpose. So I think that goes under here and it goes onto here, I think, the negative of the first capacitor. And there it is there, centre tap, first capacitor, negative side, that's it. I want to measure these resistors. This one's for the light, it just dims the light off a bit. It'll only be a couple of ohms. Yeah, 1 ohm, so that'll be okay. This one's green, black, that's, was that orange or? I think it's 50k, I think that's orange. Yeah, 47.5. There's another one behind there. This may not work because that's going on, yeah, we'll see. 47k, I don't think that's right. I've lifted that one out. It's got green on it. Maybe it came off this one. That would make sense, wouldn't it? It should be 100, so it should be brown, black and yellow. Ooh, 142k. So that's gone out of tolerance. Let's measure this one while we're there. That's 71, supposed to be 50, yeah, so these were reading a bit low. So I might change that one too. No real reason, I guess, but I'll change these two. This one doesn't matter, it's pretty good anyway. I replaced the two resistors underneath here and I've added the earth connection back to the transformer here. So this part is finished. I'm going to turn it over and find out where all the other wires go. I flipped the radio over. Here's the two resistors I replaced last night. This wire here I checked and that's going off to power the light. So that goes on that side of that resistor, which is powering the other light. There's two lights. This one's going back and it's doing the daisy chain for the filament voltage, so that goes on before the resistor. And this one here is the one that gets the B plus back to the radio, so that goes in there. There's our B plus coming out of the rectifier, so that will go in there. like that. There we go. Now this one I wasn't quite sure, but this is going off to I think the IF amplifier, but it comes off the center of these two resistors here and then goes into a 10 meg resistor down here, and there it is on the circuit diagram. So between the two and then a 10 meg. I'll solder these three on. This wire I'm going to replace, it's a bit burnt on the end. The rubber on here is very good. On all the wires is really good. It's supple and soft. Yeah, I don't know why it's survived so well. I suspect the reason for the transformer fail was this rubber wire coming through the hole. Another wire that's got a problem is this one. It's got an earth shield on this wire and it's just melted itself against it. I think it's just decay, it's not shorting or anything. So I'll replace that before I put any power on it. It's simply going over to the volume control there. I haven't worked out what wire it is, but it's going to the volume control. I'll replace these two caps. They're probably alright, but they do have a bit of burn damage, and I'll just change them anyway. 224 it says, so what's that, 0.22? And that one's the same, so 0.22. They're just bypass caps. This old cap here that they've left in for whatever reason goes across the primary of the output transformer. It's called a neutralizing cap, I think, and I think it's got a resistor. Yeah, there's the resistor as well. So that goes to the screen and the plate. So that's 3 and 4 on this 6V6 output valve. So I'll replace that. It hasn't got a lot of voltage across it, but it would affect the tone, and if it's short it may well affect the output completely. So I'll change that. So let me do all these things. I'll come back in a minute. Alright, I think I'm near done. I've connected these wires here, as I said. I've replaced this wire here which went up to the 10 meg resistor. New resistor there. I've replaced those two capacitors. I put an earth from the power panel here to the chassis ground. I replaced this wire here that would burn through. Well, it hadn't burned through, it had dissolved through. I've got a new power cord on and a fuse, so that's all wired up. I don't know where this wire goes. It's got the mains voltage on it. I really can't imagine where it goes. So I think I'm ready to power it up, but I'm just going to check the valves and see where they come up. I've got the 6V6 here. It's testing okay. I'll just show you the result of each valve. I'm not going to run through the full test. I have the 5Y3 in there out of it, and it's not reading very well. I think it's this tester though. This tester always tests 5Y3 down in the red. So I'm pretty sure it's that. Here's a brand new 5Y3 and it's exactly the same. So I'm calling that other one okay. 6U7, it's okay. It'll do. It'll work. That's the 6J8 converter. That's working okay. This is an EBF35. I can't test it in this tester, so I'll have to just put it in and see how it goes. Okay, I'm going to put some power on. I've got no valves in there at the moment. I've got it on dim bulb, so all it's doing is powering the transformer. Well, let's hope nothing goes wrong. I expect about 4 watts there. So that looks pretty good. If I hook my probe on there, that's one of the 5 volt filament windings. Here's the other one. So we should have 5 volts. 5.1, that's pretty good. Okay, I'll put the rectifier in and we'll see what happens. Okay, the rectifier's in. I'll put some power on again. Should have a bit more now. 20 watts, 15, 14. I'll check the secondaries now. We should have about 290, 190, 290. There you go, or 296, 296, 4, 5. That's okay. I've put a second meter on here to monitor the B+, and it says here 411. So that'll be okay. The valve in there will drop that. So I'll put the 6V6 in. Right, 6V6 in. I'm not getting any hum at all from this, and I'll flick it to full voltage. There's no hum. Now something I didn't check was the output transformer. The output transformer is this blue and red wire here. The red one's got the B+ going to it, the blue has it coming back. Let's see if they've got anything there. I've got 214 volts there, so what do we got there? 229, so that is working. If I tickle that, it should come through, so how can it not be coming through? I've got the 6U7 in, that's the audio amp detector. So, yeah, look, there's nothing there. I've got my signal tracer here. It's actually, well, it's on generator. I'll turn the tracer down, turn the generator up, and there won't be anything there. Something's not right. I wonder if the speaker's working. these are the clips for the shop speaker. I'll just put them on there, put it on there. There's nothing there. I don't know why I moved that. I can hear a hum now. There's a hum there. Nothing there. I can see what I've done wrong. This chassis comes as a console and a tabletop, and I've got the tabletop. I have plugged into the large speaker on the back here. I was thinking small, of course they were talking about tiny little tweeters, but this is a small speaker, it's 6-inch. So I'll change that plug over with me right. Alright, I'm going to put some power on again. I've got my signal generator here, I'm just going to apply that. Oh, there it is. Okay, fantastic. Alright, I think all this is working. I'm going to turn it over, I'll put all the rest of the valves in and the shields. I think it'll work. Well, here's the big moment. I've got all the valves in, I've got the shields on, I've got an antenna attached to it, and I've put the power on. 30 watts, dim bulb's okay. Oh, there we go.
Mid-game before we get underway here at 5:30 between Manly and Cronulla Sutherland with St George Illawarra NRLW Holly Wheeler. Tomorrow we are on air from midday stadium with myself and immediately after that of course between St George Illawarra and the Gold Coast Titans. Then at 4:05 you'll hear the NRL clash.
Yeah, something shorting there somewhere.
Stadium and hopefully a good portion of the old Don at Newcastle, the Brisbane. So, does that?
Yeah, so something's. Yeah, look at that.
Against Melbourne, you never know.
Seems the whole thing's a bit touchy. If I short this to ground, we'll see what happens. No, it's still the same.
Quality teaming up with James Cummings on Zapateo. A great return to racing.
No, it doesn't sound right. Something's not right there, something in the output somewhere. It is working though, so I'm really happy. Let's turn it up again. Is that... Oops. Sounds awful. I'll put full power on. I've broken it now. Maybe this valve isn't so good. Okay, something's happened there. The volume's on flat out and I got nothing. But stop the crackling. Oh no, maybe not. I'll stick another EBF35 in and see if that does anything. Okay, I've powered it up again. I've got a new EBF35 in there. There's still nothing there. That's working all right. I'll put a knob on this shortwave switch. Just move that around. Right, I've got my generator again. See if I'll see where it stops. Wow. Alright, oh my goodness me. Wow, that's right down. Nothing there, and no doubt nothing there. No. So somewhere from here is not working. Put the original valve back. Alright, that should have warmed up by now. A little bit there. Oops. I think that's it, the switch. No. But it's lost all its volume.
28 out from the line. It's lost by Ikabalu into the hands of Britain in the corner. Knock on Cronulla Sutherland. Change over to Manly Orega. They'll have the 47 out time line. 90 seconds gone.
I think that switch is faulty. I'll go and clean that. I'll try again. There's the switch. Doesn't look too bad. There might be a loose wire. I'll give that a few minutes to dry. Alright, I'll put some power on again. That's better. So it sounds awful though. I'll see if I can work out what's causing the distortion. Here's the grid capacitor here, or the coupling capacitor. Well, that should be 0. So I've got that on DC volts, and this will be the cathode. So it should be about 12. So we've got 11, minus 11. So that's fine. So it may well be the speaker, or it could be the output valve. I don't think the problem is entirely with that switch up there. This valve is giving trouble. So there is So I was playing alright and then it just died. There was nothing. Or very little. That's alright. I've got another one here. I'll throw that in, see if that makes a difference. This one doesn't look as pretty, but may work. Let's try that.
Boy, that was a near thing. Seagulls can breathe a sigh of relief, albeit they're down 12 0 after 21.5 minutes, because that looked for a moment like it was going to be a try, Lewis.
Yeah, it was. It wasn't, I suppose, a deep kick.
That's better. That's working much better.
Chase again. Ronaldo Mortala come up with a nice little play.
Yeah, it's still got the vibration in it. It may be the speaker. So I'll unsolder one side of the speaker here. And I'll just plug into my dummy load shop speaker here. And then down onto the wires. I'll see if that sounds better. Alright, it's warmed up and we'll turn it up. Nah, it sounds awful. So the speaker isn't the cause of that. I'll change this 6V. This was the Russian one, wasn't it? Yeah, okay. I'll try changing that for another 6V6. Okay, I've got a very second-hand 6V6 here. I don't know if it works or not. Nope, made no difference. Alright. Well, the next thing to do, of course, is just go through and check all the voltages all the way along. I know all those resistors are going to be wrong. So I'll check all the voltages and find out where the problem lies. Just before I check all the voltages, I'll just see if I can work out where the problem is. So if I put my little signal tracer here, which I've got down here, and put it on here, it's tuned into a station.
Morgan Harper placed on report for a crusher tackle.
Yeah, I thought it was him looking at the replay with the force, not sure for what who. Here's Hines, 12 metres out, a few metres to the left of the post. 10 minutes 40 left first half. Cronulla Sutherland 16, Manly Warringah 0.
That sounds alright. So it's still from here on. I could change that valve, see what that does. Why not? So I've got one here, it says it's okay. Alright, put some power back on. I'll try that. No, still the same. I didn't really think it was going to be that, but why not? So I'll try it again with my...
And now he's going to be caught by Hines and Tolman. About 31 out from his own goal line for Manly. Manly Warringah trailing 18 block. 9 minutes 30 left for...
Yeah, that sounds pretty good. So the problem is somewhere in this amp stage here. I'll solder the speaker back on and not use the shop speaker. Turn it over. I'll have a look underneath. I flip the radio over. I'll just check some voltages. I know these ones are alright. These are 260 odd. Yeah, 260. What's that? The plate's over there. So that'll be a bit less. 244. This one coming out here is the plate. It's got the coupling capacitor on it. 0.5 volt. That's feeding off this resistor. I think that's the screen. So it's 16 there. So the screen should have 10, it's got 16, the plate should have 34, and we've got nothing, or half a volt. So that resistor there, and that's what, 500k, so half a meg, and we've got 0.2 now, And on the other side of it, we have 240. That resistor is either open or very high. I've turned the radio off. I'll just take that resistor out of the circuit. So this should be 500k or half a meg, and it's 3 meg. 3 meg, okay. I'll put a new one in. There's the new resistor. We're supposed to have 30 in here. I'll bet it's higher. They're always high on this. Yeah, nearly 90. It must be the old valves just don't pull enough current through. Anyway, so that's working now. I'll turn it up. I'll see what it sounds like.
He was the Minister for Resources.
He never said to me, I was the Minister for Resources. He said that to me, okay?
Overseas security forces in Somalia say they've ended a...
That sounds much better, much better. I'll see if I can find some music, because that usually shows distortion better than voice. They're all reading the news at the moment. I'll wait a minute and I'll come back and I'll see if I can get a bit of music. We're a bit short of decent music this morning. I found this one that's a distance station. It's distorted to start with, but yeah, it's not a very good representation. I think it's working fine though. There's another one, but sounds fine. I think that's a foghorn. It's a violin, obviously. Anyway, that's fixed that. While I was changing this resistor, I checked some of the others around here. They're all high. They're not by a little bit, by a fair amount. So I'm going to replace them all that need changing anyway. And I'll come back when I've done that, and we'll move on to the next part of the radio. All right, I've replaced most of the resistors. I think these are the only two I left. They kind of don't do a lot. That one's okay. That's for the light. The rest I've changed. There was a capacitor down here. The other chap had left in there. I changed that as well. It sounds really good now.
By Gregory. Blake Laurie goes into half a gap and he's down going to...
Yeah, that's perfect. The only thing is I've still got a crackle in it.
Plays the ball to Hunt, comes to the rock to Moan, takes on the line. Wallace is there with Furmore and he stands in the tackle of Moan.
Okay, it's making a liar of me. I've been playing with what I think is wrong with it, and I think I've sort of half fixed it. This is looking from underneath the chassis at the bottom of the tuning capacitor, and that wire there is connected to the stator of the tuning capacitor. Now when I rock the tuning capacitor, it crackles. And if I move this wire, you can see it's loose. I think the solder's gone on it. So I'll redo that solder joint, and I think that'll fix that problem as well.
Boyd comes to the right to Jojo for feeder.
That's
and then off
solid
the
now.
Great
So there's no crackling.
Is Matt seeing as a change here for the goal.
This wire here needs to be replaced. That's going into the IF can. This one from the tuning capacitor is also falling apart. And I need to replace the rubber on the bottom of this valve. It's probably alright, but I'll just put some grommets in there. It won't take a minute. Now, this is kind of a weird setup. You can't get the valve out because it hits that... Well, you can't get the valve and the can out. You can't get it. You just can't get it out. So I've got to... I could probably get underneath and push it from the bottom. It's just mad. There it goes. I think these screws will just come out. I think they're screwed into the chassis. They're not... Don't have nuts on the back. I have some replacement grommets here, but they're a little bit thinner than what the old ones were. So I think what I can do is just go and take off, 1 mil or something off those, and that'll be enough. So just install the new rubber there, the new grommet. Okay. I put a grommet on the other side as well. I can push this in here. I'll refit the screw. I'll do this screw up here, and lovely. Okay, I'll replace this wire, then we'll have a look at doing this one. I've finished that wire and I've put the valve back. So the next one is this one here, and to get that out, I'm going to have to take the top of this can off. There's the nuts there, so just flick them off. Hopefully the tin covering, or the aluminium covering, will come off. Sometimes they bend little tabs over, and I can see the tabs now. So I'll have to straighten them out first. Actually, there's not much holding this on, so I might just take the wires off and pull it all out. It took about 30 seconds to take that out. So I've bend these little tabs back. I'll try and put a mark there, and I'll put one there so I know which way it went. And I should be able to pull that up. There we go. I'll have to cut that off, of course. Okay, I'll take that off, put a new piece on. Now, something I learned a long time ago was to thread the wire through this way. And you don't have to try and feed it back through that way. Bend that onto that side so it goes straight out its little access hole there. There's my little marks there, so they line up. Just bend the tabs back. Alright, I'll just refit it now. There's the old wire out. Now hopefully I can get the new wire in there. There it is. Put some new solder in. Just bend the little clamp back there. There we go, done. It's about 7 o'clock, so I thought I'd come out and put some music on. Now, again, that's not a strong station, so it's got a lot of noise behind it, but there's no distortion in there. That's fine now, that's repaired. I was having a look at the case to see what needed to be done to it in the next few days, and I remembered this yellow backplate for the dial. But if I take one of these edges off, I think I'll get the original colour, which would have been white, of course. That's the colour there, it's white, and I'll strip this off, paint it white, and then it should be dry by the time I do the cabinet. It's time to address the elephant in the room, and it's this broken dial cord. To do that, I'm going to take this wooden panel off, and it also gives me access to the speaker, which has got some holes in it. I've already unsoldered the speaker. I'll take the speaker off and I can see how much damage is there. There's a small hole here and a couple of little nibbles there, but pretty good otherwise. I'll put something over that, otherwise it's going to glue it to the basket. But yeah, that'll be easy to fix. There's another little hole there. The date stamp here says December 1947. This is the broken cord and there's the spring. I can't use that again, I don't think. Now I need a spring. This little spring set's from Aldi, but it's very useful. So that one will do. I do have the stringing diagram for this, but it's so simple you almost don't need it. I'll get rid of the old string. I'll tie it onto the spring here. I just make a loop in the string, go through the hole in the spring, pull it over and get something like that. If it doesn't tuck in the wrong place, there you go. So that's quite good, and then just tie it off with a granny knot. I put a bit of my favourite nail polish on there just to make sure it doesn't come undone again. And the spring goes on there, pull that tight. I've come up against my first obstacle. I don't want to pre-cut the string if I can help it. I'm going to feed it all the way back through it. These springs don't normally fit through this hole, but I think this one will. Yeah. So I can come back. So I'll feed it through here first, then up here. Back through the hole and clip it on. So up over this pulley and around here. And then around this pulley here, over that one, and then down here and around the bottom. I'll use an earth terminal here. The edge of the metal's too sharp to just put the string on it, and just pull that a bit tight, hopefully. I'll put a texture mark where I want the knot, and so everything doesn't just fall apart as I tie the knot. I will put some tape around there to hold the string. I should be able to let that go. So just a simple knot here, and that'll finish that off. I'll also crimp it so the knot doesn't go through. Okay, I'll take the tape off and I should be able to stretch that on there. There it is. I've run it through a few times and still got good tension on there. Good. I've repaired the speaker here, put it all back together. I've also fitted the top backing plate for the dial glass, and I'm going to check the IF alignment. I think it's pretty good. The radio is working fine, so really no need to. The main reason I want to check it is I've got a new toy to play with. I found this on eBay. It came from Victoria. The gentleman packed it beautifully, and it's come in one piece, and everything works. It works beautifully. The main reason I got it is it's got FM and FM modulation, so that was something I wanted. It also has memory, so you can just change it like that. I'll go back to where it was, which is 457.5, which is the frequency of this radio, the IF frequency. Put a 0.01 cap onto the grid of the mixer valve here, the converter valve, and I've got my meter set up there, so I will put the RF signal on. I've put the meter on 50 on the top scale there. I'll move this last digit up and down until I get noticeably worse. Okay, that's it there, 569, and I'll go back again to the center somewhere, and I'll go up until it's noticeably worse, probably there, yeah, probably there, 80, it's exactly in the middle. So if I go right back to, I'm looking at the meter here, I'm not looking at the numbers, probably there, I'd say. 4575. It's spot on, so I'm not touching that. This is manufactured in Germany by Rode and Schwartz.
I see your Schwartz is as big as mine.
So it's very, very nice. I'm really happy with it. Alright, I can turn this off. I'll tell you what's happened. Turns out the dial glass fitted to the set is not the right dial glass, and I noticed it when I first looked at it and then forgot to follow it up. It's glued into the top of the cabinet, so it's not right. The spread on the dial is totally inadequate. It's only about that wide. This needs to be this wide. So I'm on the lookout for another dial glass. I've put some feelers out to see if someone has one. I don't hold much hope out. I do have another one that'll fit, but it's too short actually, so it only just covers the hole in the cabinet. The radio is working very well, so I'll just have to leave it as it is and see if I can get a new dial glass. So I'm going to finish the cabinet off and put it all together and hopefully get a new dial glass one day. I've got the cabinet outside here, and it is just covered in some, I don't know what it is, looks like, I don't think it's paint, but it's just dirty. So I'm just going to wipe it off with some water and maybe a little cleaner if I need to. But the finish on this, as I said in part one, is brilliant. I don't know what they've finished it in, whether it's poly or something, I don't know, but it's absolutely perfect. It's got little spots on it, I don't even know what it is. So I'll see, look, it just wipes off. So yeah, look, the finish is amazing. It's like a piano. I'll clean the dial glass here, but that looks good. I mean, it actually looks pretty good in there, but it's not going to have the lighting that it should have. And as I said before, the scope of the dial is there, so it should be out here somewhere. There's a little bit more there. I'll just get rid of that as well. Yeah, look, this is just wiping off. Yep, perfect. All right, I'll finish cleaning this. The other thing I need to do is put a somewhat better cloth on. If I finish cleaning it up, I'll take this grill out. Yeah, that's pretty easy. Now I would think that would have some sort of backing board in there. They wouldn't just normally put it in with just the grill. So perhaps I'll get a bit of cardboard, cut it up, cut a hole in it. I've got the case inside. I have the chassis ready to go back. I'm going to put it back in the case. Should go in. It's tight. There we go. Alright, I've got that in. I'll put some screws in. I think they're going from the bottom, so I'll do that. We'll come back and we'll have a look at it. I've fitted the chassis, I've put the knobs on, and it should have warmed up by now.
Mr. Preut's opponents took a petition to the court saying his tenure began on this day in 2014 when he was...
Yeah. When the temperature hits you, just get a Fujitsu.
Sunny 21 degrees.
Yeah, so it's working really well.
7 tonight, sunny again tomorrow, a top of 22, mostly sunny 22.
I'm deciding to walk out through an emergency service. Right there.
So their legal cases.
Ultra attempting to go.
Battle for us is just going to be competitive, that's all.
And it's running gone for Marko.
There's some stations up the end there that I can't really get.
Charlie Noprim a week later. It's coming up to 6:05. That is the latest in news and sport.
Get the new Audi A3.
There it is. I can't take any credit for the case. The case is really nice. It's a beautifully made case. It's a really nicely made radio. And the veneering is just beautiful. They've done a really good job. I put a new grill in it. I didn't waste any good grill material on this. Until I get a new dial glass, if I ever get one, I'm not going to get too carried away. It's got the wrong knobs, wrong grill, and the wrong dial glass. Apart from that, it's in really good condition. It works very, very well. And it sounds really good. It's got a good sound to it. So I was a bit disappointed when I found out about the dial glass, so it's kind of on hold. I'll leave it at this point here. If I can get a new glass and new knobs, that'll be great. Here's what the glass should look like, and it's about 320 millimeters by about 145 high. So if you have one lying around, I'd love to buy it from you. And also I'd like to get some original knobs, so if somebody's got some of those, I'd like to hear from them too. Something I didn't mention was this EBF35. This is the original valve. The connection between pin 1 and the screen here had been lost when the adhesive gave way, so I've put a bit of wire around there, just wrapped it tight. It kind of picks up the screen and the original wire that's around there and connects them up again. It's a temporary fix. It'll probably work for many years. Nobody touches the valve, but that saves me wasting a good valve in there. So that'll be it for this radio. I will leave it until I get some more parts for it, but I had a lot of fun. The transformer rewind was pretty impressive. I was happy with that. I got a lot of satisfaction out of that, and I'm going to build a better winder. I've ordered all the parts for it. For the next transformer that comes along, we should get a much better job again. I'm going to take my annual YouTube vacation for a few weeks. There's lots to do around the house and stuff that I've neglected over the last 12 months, so I want to catch up with all that. I've got to rejig my workspace here. Plus I need to get a head start on my next project. It's a low Opta German radio, so hopefully it won't be a long break. I'll be back and we'll see how I go with the Opta. Where do you go? As always, I hope you enjoyed coming along on this little adventure with me, and I hope you can join me for my next radio adventure.